Okay. I just told everyone the story when I followed that van that was passing my house every day, and I went to the health food store, and this man there, he took this group into the health food store, and then I asked him the question, well, is this good for, will this help with, why fruits and vegetables? And he looked at me and he said, who are you? Because I wasn't part of his group. But then he explained this stuff to me and everything else, and as I said, it was Hippocrates Health Institute that started me on this path. And this was the first and only person I knew in my whole life at one point that was eating raw foods other than just the basic salsa and guacamole. And he's become a great friend now, and it's just wonderful to know him and learn from him. And I highly recommend, out of every single confusion out there in the raw food diet, Hippocrates Health Institute, I say it in all my talks, all my videos, over 50 years of studying people, the only place in the world that has researched more people from healing disease, which is diet and lifestyle changes, in the whole world, and has more success than any other place, is Hippocrates Health Institute, and they continue to evolve and do what works and get rid of what's not ideal. I highly recommend Hippocrates Health Institute, and I highly recommend people listen to Brian Clement as much as you can, read his books over and over again. So,
keep talking. I like it.
You follow? Okay, so here he is. So, but really, get to Hippocrates Health Institute. I live right near there, and I'm blessed to get to go there often and see Brian speak all the time. So I know his whole schmeal, as we say. But really, who here has been to Hippocrates? I tell people in the raw food community today, if you just want to learn how to eat raw foods, that's one thing. But if you're sick, you have an illness, you need to be to a place that knows what they're doing. You don't go to some person that just started this yesterday. And even if you are, just look to eat raw food, get out there. That is the place to be. And I tell everyone, not just because he's here, you read my books, see my videos, you know that. So let's give a big hand to Brian Clement here.
Thank you. Boy, that was good. Now I have to live up to all of that spiel. Yeah. I actually remember Paul in those days, and he was very sick, as unfortunately are many people now, and many young people in our culture and society. And the sad part was, when you have something like diverticulosis, diverticulitis, Crohn's disease, they literally tell you the last thing you would ever do is eat raw food. Isn't it amazing? Oh, yeah. And by the way, it makes sense in the medical model, because the roughage and little seeds could get caught in those little pockets of pus. That's what diverticulosis, diverticulitis is. So it's not like off the deep end that they would say that. But unfortunately, they think that that's a chronic, lifelong disease that will never, ever go away. And we have seen hundreds of people, Paul being one good example, of it going away, because why you get that to begin with is you don't have life, you don't have nutrients, you don't have roughage in your intestinal tract. And what you've got to do is reintroduce that. Now, grant you can't take a person with these type of disorders and tell them to eat like I do, or many of you do. Because if they do eat those seeds and eat just normal salads, and as much as blending may kill a lot, we use a lot of blended food in that process. And slowly introduce softer foods and foods that can bring that back to life. And then when it's brought back to life, what occurs at that stage is people recover. But it's laborious and it's scary for people because everyone else in the world says no raw food. Now, I'm glad you had a time to sit with Paul, because he was a very sick young man. Can you imagine? He was in his early 20s, I believe, and doctors said you have no future. You're going to be on drugs for the rest of your life, and there's nothing you can do. And it's so easy, but people don't want to get that. Today, I won't go directly into it. I'll answer a few questions until 5 minutes pass, and then we'll basically, at that stage, open up for the 3 o'clock talk. Anyone have any questions at all? Yes?
You mentioned something about cashews.
Right.
And Gabriel mentioned something about cashews that are native.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a little
Okay.
bit?
Cashews literally have inherently, naturally, a poison within them. I don't care if they're raw or not raw. And let's start with that. The poison is there no matter what. Secondly, most raw cashews, to get them out of the shell, they've been exposed to high heat. If you've ever seen the shell, it's like mahogany. It's like this. The fruit on the top of it, although some cultures eat it. If you ate enough of those, that inherent natural poison would make you sick in there. So a lot of them, because they haven't been cooked after the fact, they haven't been roasted after extraction from the nut, they're still considered raw. There are a handful of companies that literally make raw cashews that they mechanically break the shell open. But then you don't have the roasting problem, you still have the poison problem. Yeah. So those of us, as I did, I loved cashew. That was one of the nicest creamy tasting, cheesy things that you could possibly eat. I finally discovered pine nuts. Pine nuts are a pretty good substitute for that. It's creamy, oily. What we're really after is the oily substance of that. And that's really the way to go, comparative to a cashew. Yes? Macadamians are actually good. Now, with nuts, even if you're as healthy as can be, we never want to over-consume nuts. You've got to remember, in the early stages of moving into a raw food diet, one of the things all of us always do, including me, is eat massive amounts of heavy food. We eat 2 avocados, 3 avocados at a sitting. We eat nut loaf made out of ground up nuts. It's like 5 pounds of nuts we're eating. I ate so many nuts when I began this, I had hemorrhoids. And that's not a joke. So how could a healthy diet give me hemorrhoids? Well, eat 5 pounds of nuts a day. Now, we don't have time to get into that now, but really why that happens is that we're eating to keep our emotions down. We've been used to using foods as a narcotic. And so that heavy food consumption in the past has kept your field of energy down here, your consciousness literally in the lower area. Because if all your energy is there trying to digest and not digest and push out waste, you don't have much here and you don't have much here. And when I was obese, I realized what it was about. When you don't like and don't respect and honor your life or yourself, you're trying to narcoticize yourself. But in my case, it wasn't with alcohol and it wasn't with drugs. It was with food. And if food is not good enough, then the next thing people do is they get to the alcohol. And if that's not good enough, then they get to other drugs. And that's how we generally eat. Anyone over on this side? Yes?
Can you speak to essential parent oils, omega-6, omega-3, the ratios, and the difference between
Okay. Number one, if you look at most Americans, we have a lot of omega-6. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, but we get omega-6 almost always within the diet we eat. It's omega-3s that are important, and the best sources of omega-3 are chia seed sprouts, hemp seeds, also the sprouts of flax. And these give you a well-rounded omega-3. And my suggestion is you eat a little bit of all of these several times a week, or one day you take sprouted flax, the next day you take hemp. So even those of us who study this all of the time will tell you the truth that we are learning as we go with the essential fats. The good news is if you take a little bit of each of them, we may discover next week something we didn't know this week. And you're going to get a well-balanced cross-section of these things. A lot of the sprouts have a lot of essential oils in them. Sunflower green sprouts, we touched on that yesterday. Another great source of essential fats. The oils from those omega-3 fats are always very volatile. They go bad quick. So when you're purchasing those oils, make sure, number one, you never use a lot of it. Number two, that you store it in a refrigerator and buy small amounts. Because it will go bad very rapidly, as fish oil does. Fish oil is bad within 24 hours. It's lipid peroxides that cause the cancer effect of fish oil. And the same thing would happen, not as grossly or as rapidly, with those other oils I spoke about. They'd get lipid peroxides too. Yes? Yes. It's actually a good one. I just was in Europe for 3 weeks recently, and one of the things that disturbed me, and I haven't been home to study it, they said that there's an unnatural way that they're extracting that. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, or it was some salesman that was telling me that, but I'll have that, and if I do find that, by the way, if you're subscribing to our magazine, I'll be writing about that. Yes?
If you're a real skinny person, if you want to gain muscle,
Yeah.
how would you do it?
Well, number one, you have to lift weight. I went from 240 pounds to 119 pounds. You should have seen when I came home and told my mother I was on a better diet now. I was on a raw food diet. And she looked at me. And one of the chronic problems of people on the raw food diet, they don't get the exercise element. And that's how you gain weight. The only time that you'll ever gain weight is if you're eating food that's not good for you. Food that is good for you will not put weight on your body. It will give you energy. I'd rather use the word energy than calories. And if you take enough of complex carbohydrates and sprouted grains, sprouted beans, etc., and then take enough protein on top of that with a great hemp protein, better yet, the new one I spoke about, Sun Warrior protein, then you're going to go to a gym, lift weight, slowly but surely, more progressively, and gain weight. I've consistently now, for 25 years, since I finally realized that, weighed 175 pounds. I rarely go on longer fast. I just went on my first longer fast in about 8-9 years. Went on a 7-day fast. I didn't lose a quarter of a pound. Because when you build the body with muscle, and that's what you want, not fat, it doesn't go away quick. It's built well. Where, by the way, when I lost 240 pounds right down to 119, it was like somebody took a pin and stuck it in my side. Okay, now we'll go on to the subject we're going to speak about because it's approximately the time. I'm taking up my wife's spot today. She would be much more articulate and smarter about this subject than me. But anyway, I'll try my best with you. This is from her book, Health and Healing. And we're going to go right to the section. Oh, this is our founder here. We'll go back. That's Ann Wigmore, if you've never seen Ann. And Ann was, in the United States, the kingpin, the grandmother of the raw food movement. This is my wife with her, and of course, this is also Elma Nissen, who she worked with, directing the #1 health center in all of Europe, in Stockholm, Sweden. So my wife comes from a very strong European background of natural healing, and it's nice to have that element at Hippocrates, because it's a long, respected tradition there, unlike us, up until very recently, have been a counterculture movement at all. So we bring a lot of that technology to us. We'll go through all of that. Boom, 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 boom. Let's all sing. All right, here we go. Back. See, I got the thing crazy now. Doesn't want to do what I want it to do anymore. Living herbs and edible weeds. Now we're going to talk about detoxification and things we've learned over the 53 years Hippocrates has been doing this. If you know anyone with arthritis of the extremities, now there's different kinds of arthritis. We're not talking about spinal arthritis, hands, arms, this type of thing. The solution is wheatgrass impacting. How many of you know what wheatgrass impacting is? See that? And this is one of the most powerful things I've ever seen work for this. You soak a cotton sock, get 100% cotton sock, in 6 ounces of wheatgrass juice, place on the affected area, cover with a plastic bag, okay, and a dry sock over the top of it. So imagine you have your hands arthritic. The wet, wheatgrass wet cotton sock, a plastic bag over the top of that, rubber bands obviously loose so they're not contracting, and then put a good white cotton sock over the top of that. And let that be there. You can go to bed with that, let it sit for hours, and it literally starts to take away the inflammatory condition even better than what we do orally when we consume things like turmeric, etc. Eye washes. Now, many of you have eye problems. I see glasses around here. You may have glaucoma, may have cataracts, may have things of that nature. Wheatgrass juice. Massage around the eye in an eye cup with 1/2 ounce of strained wheatgrass juice. Now go to your kitchen supply house and get a really fine stainless steel strainer. Don't use a big porous one, because you may have little pieces of something in there. You don't want to put that into your eye. Look upward, put the eye cup to the eye for 15 to 30 seconds. Boy, is it going to sting. And why it stings, literally, is all the blood is going through the capillaries up to the top of the eye. And the vast majority of eye problems that people have, the disease problems, is because as we age, circulation stops going to the eye and it dies. And this is why we see cataracts and glaucoma and things like this often go away And certainly this is preventive. When I lived in Boston, which was a dirty city unlike West Palm Beach, every night I would flush my eyes with wheatgrass, and this black gook would come out. I mean, honest to God, it was almost like I could put it in my hand some of the times. So if you're in a place like Los Angeles, even San Francisco, Portland, any of these cities, please clean your eyes with that. Knock it down. If you're a little bit of a sissy on this, like I was sometimes, mix it half and half with water. General detoxification. Wheatgrass juice, drink 2 to 4 ounces. Implant, 4 to 6 ounces. Now what does implant? Rectally, after enema. Now we get to the kinky part of the raw food show. Now, how many of you know about drinking wheatgrass? How many of you like it? Let's be honest. I drink it. I've been drinking it for almost 40 years. I still don't like it, but I drink it every day. And wheatgrass has remained the #1 most popular health food for 22 years straight. Why? Because it is so unbelievably effective. In the study of phytochemicals, we found that germinated wheat and other grains are by far the highest in anti-cancer, antiviral effects. So yes, we do it. The perfect world for maintenance, you're taking at least 2 ounces, but I'd really love you to take 2 ounces in the morning, 2 ounces at night, period. For how long? Until the day you die at 200 years old. Now here's when we get into the early stages. Although we think that enemas and colonics are not a natural process, we certainly are big advocates of them. Why? Because we know that you have not been living in a natural way. So we've got to take your unnatural circumstance and help you alleviate it in the best and most effective way. But the problem that most people have when they talk about enemas or colonics is they never tell you that the electrolytes, the minerals, are going to be wiped out. And let's go back to that. This is important information. There are 3 minerals that are the engines or the batteries for every one of your cells. Does anyone know what those 3 minerals are? No, not sodium. That's a mistake. Potassium, magnesium, and calcium. And most of that comes from the intestinal tract. Now, if you wash it out with water alone, and this I totally agree with the conservative gastrointestinal specialist, they are right, you will no longer have enough minerals to give battery or energy to all of your cells. But if you then, after you take an enema or colonic, take wheatgrass, 4 to 6 ounces, put it up your little bun after you've cleaned your intestines with water, and hold it there for 15, 20, 30 minutes, you're not only going to have the wonderful minerals back, you're going to get more. And what this does is, because it's so close, the chlorophyll, to the hemoglobin in the human blood, it magnetizes poisons and mucoids. Now, how many of you have done implants here? Funny thing, when I did my first implant, I looked at what came out, and I thought part of my intestine had come out. And I kept saying, my intestine came out, my intestine came out. And thank God it was with an older, more knowledgeable person. They said, no, that's the mucus you've been eating from all that cheese. That's really what it was, because it's in the shape, obviously, of all of that. So this is important. Now, in the early stages of detoxification, and certainly if you have diseases, this is important. Not to become anally fixated, but to do this. In our program, we're suggesting once or twice a day for the first 3 weeks. Then after that, for the vast majority of people, 1 time a week, hopefully the day after the 1-day fast, if you're doing that, if you're strong enough to do that, for 7 years, because it takes 7 years for the body to regenerate. If I take 1 or 2 implants a year now, I'd be surprised. I just did because of that longer fast I did. But last year, by the way, I didn't take any implants. So once you're healthy, enemas and implants and even colonics won't be necessary. We're talking the juice, yeah. And this is another cute story. We had a very good-looking boy teaching up in Boston about 30 years ago, and he did the class on enemas, and he was very efficient at this. I happened to walk into the Institute, which was an old Victorian brownstone in Boston, and this young lady was at the bottom of this big sprawling staircase, carved, beautiful staircase, and here was the guy at the top who taught the class, and she kept saying, now go through this again. And I'm listening to this conversation. And he said, you cut the wheatgrass and then you put it in. And she said, well, that's what I did, and it wouldn't go in. So he said, oh, I forgot to tell you, you have to juice it first. So the poor girl was in the bed all night. So I'm in the craziest place in the world. But this is very important. Yes, very important. Now, problems in the hair and the scalp and dandruff, look at wheatgrass again. Massage 6 ounces into scalp, cover head with shower cap, leave on for 15 minutes, and then rinse. We had one boy that worked with me in Boston long, long time ago, in the early 70s, mid-70s, that actually washed his hair every day with wheatgrass. You should have seen that kid's head after a year. It was amazing. I mean, he had a good head of hair to begin with. He had thick, dark, black hair. It must have doubled in size. We chronically see several people here at Hippocrates start to grow hair back, white hair turn color. Now, if you're genetically white, that's not going to happen. Yeah, genetically white, it's not going to happen. On the other hand, if you're not, if it was lifestyle white or lifestyle bald, it often comes back because it's zinc and copper, by the way. And both those are well endowed in wheatgrass. Zinc and copper that takes away most people's hair and colorization. So this is a good one. And omega-6 deficiencies, by the way, happen to cause dandruff. That's the one that causes dandruff. And it's phospholipids. See, essential fats, I don't want to get too complicated, but essential fats break down to phospholipids, and phospholipids split into different molecular structures, and they're the ones that go to different parts of the body as fuel. Headaches, enemas and implants. We are clear in the field of medicine, everyone in medicine, that about 70% of all headaches come from the gastrointestinal area. How many of you have noticed that? You eat improperly, you get gas, you get headaches. People who have major headaches have this. So cleansing that area, making sure you're combining food correctly. On the panel today, I agreed very much with the people who said eat less. That really, really is true. Eating less, not eating as much, not eating at night. Paul probably just spoke about not eating at night. Remember, it wasn't too long ago that people would get up when the sun came up and go to bed when the sun went down. Today we're up watching, who's the new guy? Conan O'Brien at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. For the old guys, they have Jay Leno. I like him better anyway. We can watch him at 10 o'clock and go to bed. So the solution, drink at least 2 quarts of pure water, cleanse the colon, take 1 quart pure water enema, and then follow with a wheatgrass implant. So if you're really suffering a headache, this really alleviates it in about 7 out of 10 cases for you. Now, again, if you have chronic headaches every day, I wouldn't be suggesting this every day. You have to have work done on you. And I would suggest cranial reconstruction work done by Dr. Howell out of Washington State. And he's trained a lot of people, cranial reconstruction. Also neuromuscular work. Paul St. John created that in St. Petersburg, Florida, and has trained people all over the country. These are the kind of things I've seen structurally help people with that. Then skin eczema and psoriasis. When I was a kid, I actually died only one time. I died when I was 2.5, and it was from asthma. And they put the cover over me, and it happened to be my one medical doctor uncle was on call that day at the hospital. And the nurse ran up and said, "Go down and console your relatives. Your nephew just died." And he came down, pulled the sheet off, and brought me back to life. Well, when I started to like girls at 12 or 13 years old, I was so embarrassed because my whole body was covered with eczema. I mean, my face, my body was just covered with. And little did I know at that point that eczema is a lung problem. If your lung is not breathing, the largest organ in your body, the skin, tries to breathe. And that's what eczema is. And 2 months after I started the vegan diet, not even the raw diet, just the vegan diet, that completely went away. My lungs are better than they ever were in my entire life. The older I get, it seems. And the reality is, this has helped. Psoriasis, about 2.5% of the population here has it. It's a growing problem. And I believe it's a fungal problem to begin with. But both of these can be dramatically helped by wheatgrass poultices. We talked about impacting before. This is a poultice. Make poultices using 2 ounces or, I don't have to say millimeters. American couldn't figure that out. Remember they tried to teach us a metric system? We got rid of it in 6 months. Damn it, I can't count numbers of 10. Get rid of that thing. Of wheatgrass juice and enough pulp to absorb the juice atop the gas. Apply poultice to the affected area. Cover it with a bandage secure it with tape, leave it on affected area for approximately 8 hours. So you can put that under your clothing, or if you're at home and sleeping, it doesn't matter. But this is just amazing because, again, the chlorophyll in wheatgrass is a lot like what? The hemoglobin, the blood. So blood attracts blood. And so why you're having these problems is that blood flow cuts off, nutrient flow cuts off, oxygen cuts off. If you start to bring life back to that, the cells, in this case, in psoriasis and eczema, start to become orderly and functional again. Vaginal discharge. This guy has a lot of that problem. Fibroid tumors, cysts, yeast infections, herpes, post-menstruation solutions. Don't be a woman. I mean, I'll tell you, I love women, but I'm just glad I'm not one. Just look at that list. Wheatgrass juice douches. Now, this is really important. Put 2 ounces of wheatgrass juice into an ounce of pure water. Add enzymes. We talked a lot. Victoria's is right on button with enzymes. I mean, I don't know if you know this, the pharmaceutical industry is spending most of its energy and money now on studying probiotics and enzymes. And that's why they want to take control of it. In Europe, by the way, now, they won't allow enzymes to be sold in the health food market because they realize what it does. I've been using effectively, under the studying of Victoria's some 35 years ago, enzymes, and it is remarkable the success we've had with those. We have a systemic enzyme that's amazing within itself. Not everyone needs it, though. And so what you do is you mix the probiotic and the enzymes together. You smush it up for about a minute. Make this fresh. Use it rapidly. Don't make it and sit it, because all of you that you were here yesterday, the hope would be gone. Hormones, oxygen, phytochemicals, and enzymes would be gone. So you use it rapidly and put it up into you. Now the problem is the vaginal area will not hold things naturally, so you've got to play with your head a little bit. Get into the bathroom, put your head on the ground, your hiney up a little bit, and your legs a little higher, like on a slant board. And psychologically somehow you say, oh, I can do it that way. And try to hold it there for at least 5 minutes. Now another thing I'll add that's not part of this, because it's after we wrote this book, that University of Michigan in vitro, in Petri dishes, showed us something that was remarkable. In 100% of the cases in vitro where they looked at ovarian cancer, ginger killed it. 100% of the time. So now for 2 to 3 years, I've been telling women who either have a propensity towards ovarian problems or they do have ovarian cancer to take douches. Now, again, it's not a pleasant thing. It's not burning you, but it's hot. It gets into you, it's hot. But boy, is it remarkable. When they came out with that study, I mean, that's it. You can't not do it at that point. And then eating ginger too, but directly to that area would be important. Asthma, eucalyptus leaf. With mortar and pestle, press the fresh leaf into small open pieces. Out here you have so much of that eucalyptus leaf, you drop over it every time you go here. Add 2 ounces of flax oil. Let it sit for 24 hours. Consume 5 drops of the preparation 4 times per day. This is amazingly good for it. It opens up the tubes, the pipes in the lungs. And even if you don't have that, if you lived in, how many of you live in Los Angeles? Do this periodically yourself.
Are you saying you drink it?
Yes. Yeah, you let it sit. Oh, let's go back again. A lot of LA people there. With a mortar and pestle, you all know what that is. You saw it on Little House on the Prairie. Press the fresh leaf, which you get off the trees here all day long for free, into small open pieces. You can crush it, crush it, crush it. Have fun doing it. And then add 2 ounces of flax oil. Let it sit over for 24 hours. Then you consume. You can hold that for several days, by the way. For up 5, 6, 8 days you can hold this. Then consume 5 drops of the preparation 4 times per day. Now, if you were chronic, you could take this 100 times a day. But the average person, it's 4 times a day.
Do you have to refrigerate it?
I would do that, yeah. Because you're in a warm climate. Burns, aloe vera leaf. Now, it's interesting. Every burn center on the planet now only uses aloe. They no longer use the old gels. Break a leaf, apply the gel from the open leaf to the burn. We did a study on aloe some 18 years ago that surprised me. What happened, it was an interesting story. On a Sunday night, it was late. My front desk called me as they were closing. They said a guy checked in here in a hospital outfit. And he just checked out of a hospital because they told him he was going to die. So, and we can't take people who need hospitalization, but what was my choice? To throw him on the street? So I said, look, let's immediately take him in, order oxygen, stick him in the bed, make him understand that we're not a hospital, he knows, and I called his relatives in Chicago and said, get down. Well, anyway, 3 weeks later, he was up running around. He was dying of extraordinary lung problems at that point. He had emphysema from smoking, and God knows what else he did. And after he became alive again, he came to my office, became the eminent salesman he was, and said to me, well, you realize I own an aloe vera company. And aloe vera makes you fly and makes your sex life better and makes you younger and drops cancer out of your buttocks. And I said, look, show me a drop of research on this stuff. Couldn't do it. I said, okay, you sat and told me how much you love Hippocrates, we saved your life. Do you have money? That's when he got a little quiet. And he said, yeah, I have a little bit of money. I said, well, I want you to put all of it. If you love us, put your money where your mouth is. And I said, let's do a study here. And we did it. And it was a double-blind study where we took flax water, put it in one unmarked bottle, and half the group got that. It was 300 or so people, 360, I think. And the other half got the raw aloe vera in there. And we went through that for 18 months. And boy, a lot of things you hear about aloe aren't right. But what we did learn is that it allows every nutrient that you eat in the presence of or similar around the time to be absorbed much more into the human cell. That's really why I like aloe. Plus it has chlorophyll in it. Plus aloe can actually keep you alive up to 3 days if you don't have hemoglobin, if they don't have blood out somewhere in the forest when you start to bleed too much. You could actually keep the body by injecting aloe vera in. And it's an extraordinary hydration factor. So it's a good thing to have, but again, even those of you who have a lot of money, this could be costly if you took everything that was good for you. So what we do at the Clement household is that we take the basics. I take a lot of algae, I take enzymes, I take, for at this stage of my life, I take ginseng. All men should be taking that. I think all women should be taking gotu kola if you want to have on your face. And, these type of things. And then some of you need women's formula, men, whatever it may be. With that said, we would take aloe and not take it for 2 months. Take, something else like raw acai for the next time, and then not take that for 2 months, and rotate things around. Now that's if you're healthy. If you're not healthy, if you had an uptake problem, I may put you on a lot of raw aloe for a long time. And so that's a good thing to know.
Could you repeat that all women should be taking what?
Gotu kola. It's an herb. Gotu kola. Say it right. Gotu kola. Burns, including sunburn. Ice. People forgot what grandmom used to teach us. We're like idiots. We have all these major burn problems because the first thing we should do when we get burned is put ice on. Nothing in the world's history will ever do better than freezing that dying cell before it dies. Nothing better than ice. So keep a lot of ice. Make sure it's holistic ice, of course. Burns, including sunburn, baths and showers. Take cold baths and showers, especially if you have a feisty mate. Cough, aloe and grapefruit seed. Right now, the State University of Oregon is doing studies on grapefruit seed, and the preliminary findings are amazing. Grapefruit seed extract. Problem is they use hexanol in a lot of the crap they put on the market. Not so good. So make sure your first question is, hey, did you extract this with hexanol? If so, decline taking it and buying it. But what you really want is a grapefruit seed. Let's sit in 4 ounces of raw aloe vera for 12 hours in the refrigerator. Consume 1 to 3 tablespoons as needed. See that? Oh, sure. We sell a raw aloe. It's frozen. The guy that sold it just died at 97 years old. You should have seen him. He didn't have a wrinkle on his face. This guy was an amazing character. He sold me even better than my own studies on aloe vera a few years ago.
What about the aloe vera, like in health food store?
Well, that's good. I mean, the aloe that's raw. Oh, no, in the bottles, no. The bottles are all cooked. If you look at the top selling, Lily of the Desert, Georgia's, they'll tell you this is water. It's cooked water is what it is. So the medicinal properties are almost null and void with it. practically nothing. So you need a raw aloe leaf, which is better than even what I'd sell you. And then basically the second would be a frozen aloe, which you lose probably 20% of it, but it's easier and more convenient. And
they sell that in a health food store?
not all of them. Not all of them. You can ask. Some of the better health stores on the West Coast may have.
Brian, this is a book that you wrote, you and Gladys wrote? This is
Yes, this is Health and Healing. My wife wrote Health and Healing. A very practical book we should all have in our homes. And that's Anna Maria Gons Clement. Diarrhea. How many of you have diarrhea? I know it. I should have asked you before we started. Diarrhea. Woo, loo, loo. Come on, what do you do? We have to have fun with diarrhea. Raw mint leaves and green clay. Now, green clay, edible green clay is hot stuff. When I want to really get somebody's gastrointestinal tract back in position again, so the bacteria has a place to eat, like a good organic, you give edible green clay to the person. Humus from soil. These are things that we have to get back. Because all the good bacteria that we need in our body originate at where? In the soil. Now, you take 4 ounces of edible clay powder. I always prefer the French. I'm a connoisseur of it. Add 2 ounces of pure water and 1 ounce of finely cut fresh mint leaves. Then let sit for 3 hours. Consume 1/2 ounce as needed. And this is for not only diarrhea, but constipation, a lot of gastrointestinal problems, even gas, long-term gas.
Could you use this for somebody who had a colon resection?
Oh, absolutely. You don't put anything rough into the colon for about 6 months after, because there's about 1% chance, if they haven't sewn it correctly, it could perforate again. So just to be really safe, you don't put a lot of this in immediately. Give them a lot of probiotics, and then wait, and then give this to them 6 months and 1 day and forward.
They did a colostomy. They removed, like, put in half the colon, did a colostomy. So he had it back for a while. Then they did a takedown, reverse takedown.
Okay.
And left him with chronic diarrhea.
Oh, yeah. Well, the diarrhea in almost every case can be stopped, even with chronic diarrhea. But you've got to get to the bacterial balance and mineralization, the electrolytes, the bacteria that we see. We see people who have had it for years, and it's not easy to get rid of, but if you keep persevering, you will get rid of it. Okay. Then we get to earaches, garlic oil. I mean, I could actually speak for the next 10 days about garlic oil. There is nothing more disinfecting than garlic oil. You remember the sweet girl that Paul McCartney married and they got a breakup recently? I'll tell you her story. This is an interesting story. Her friend came to us maybe 15 years ago now, healed breast cancer that was metastasizing to her bone. And about 12 years ago, the girl was coming back from Britain to Hippocrates, and this girl was a model. Heather Mills was a big model. And she was literally on a giant, large street in London, putting her foot out to cross the street, and a policeman on a motorcycle wasn't looking and hit her at full speed and dismembered her leg. And she almost bled to death. They put her into the hospital. She was in a coma for several months, and they told the family she was going to die. Came out of it, and she said, like this abrupt voice got her out of it. She said, I was a shallow kid that wasn't interested in anything but money and fame. And within 2 months after she got out, she was actually she was the first European taking to the children of Kosovo loads of food and clothing. Really became utterly conscious because she was through the death experience. But she had this infection that wouldn't go away. And the best doctors in Britain, their remedy was every few months come in and cut another inch off. So that was what the poor kid was going through for a year or two. So she said, well, I don't know if this is going to help you, but come. 4 days after she was with us, she was walking. She walked out of the United States on a leg. And she wasn't able to put a leg on before because of the infection. This is what we see. People who had open wounds for 5 years, within a matter of weeks, it goes away. If you have any problem externally that has anything to do with an infection, you better get garlic oil. Now, all you have to do is this. Prepare 1 part pressed garlic with a press and 2 parts room temperature, cold pressed, uncooked olive oil. It could also be the oils we spoke about earlier. Saturate cotton ball and place it into the ear canal, or the leg, or the buttocks, or the back of the head, or wherever you have an open wound. This is amazing disinfectant.
Can I just add?
Fever, yes.
I cured my son's ear infection with garlic oil. After the pediatrician told me if I don't give him antibiotics, his whole face, his whole inner ear will get infected.
See, there it is. I mean, there it is, garlic oil. Fever breaker, ginger powder. Now, ginger, you can't just take ginger. You have to take ginger powder. Once or twice a week, dissolve 1 cup in hot bath water. I mean, as hot as you can get it. So your little buns don't want to get into it. Soak for 15 to 20 minutes. Rinse with a cold shower, then pat yourself. Don't really dry yourself. Pat. So you're moist. Pat yourself off with a towel. But leave yourself slightly moist. Wrap yourself in a towel. Place yourself under the covers of your bed. And what we normally suggest, because you're going to profusely perspire and you're going to go to bed like a baby. If you have even sleeping problems, this is a help for you. Put a couple of towels down on the bed. Wrap yourself in a towel. Get under covers, even if it's hot. Get under covers and go off to sleep. This process promotes perspiration and soothes neurological function and the brain. It is an amazing, amazing process. That's an old Ayurvedic thing we learned that works. An old Ayurvedic thing that really, really works. When we want to break fevers for people, when we want people to get over insomnia, when we want people to pretty much relax, people who have traumas, their husband died, their wife died, whatever it may be. They've been told that day by the doctor they have cancer, whatever. We do this with them, and it's a radical, beautiful way to help most people. We'll try to hold the questions. I'll answer for the last 10 minutes or so. General detoxification. Sea salt, Epsom salts, kosher salt, crystal, and Celtic salt. All of them are the same, pretty much. All of them are sodium chloride. I know you had a lot of enthusiasts and cheerleaders tell you how wonderful salt was this weekend. It's all sodium chloride. If you're not supposed to eat table salt, I don't know why you should be eating the fancy, more expensive stuff that really is sodium chloride. But you can soak in it because it's amazing. That's why when you get into the ocean, you feel remarkably good. I'm not sure in this 55-degree ocean, Florida's ocean. We only swim, we said, we'll swim year-round when we move back to Florida. When it gets down to 75, that's it. It's all over for the next year. You become wussy there. Once or twice per day, dissolve 1 cup in hot bath water. Soak for 15 to 20 minutes. Rinse with a cold shower. Add 1 pound of baking soda to neutralize radiation, chemicals, heavy metals, etc. This is amazing. You want to speed up the detoxification. Remember, today we also talked about Dr. Cooper. That was this morning, about exercise. Or that was yesterday, actually, I think. General detoxification, dry brush. If you don't use a dry brush, do this. How many of you use dry brushes here? If you haven't, go and get one. And rub your body in a clockwise manner. And look at what you see here. Immediately before showering, using circular motions and straight strokes towards the solar plexus, rub your entire skin surface vigorously. Stimulates the lymphatic and circulatory system. This is one of the best health, for $5 you buy those brushes, one of the best health things you could possibly do to yourself. And this is the last one we'll have time for. We go back to psoriasis again, dry, oily scalp. Neem. I used to train herbalists. I was a master herbalist a long time ago. And I would never tell you to use an herb that I didn't think worked, but it's very seldom an herb works so universally as neem does. Neem is a great one for psoriasis. Juice or press the neem leaves. This is if you can get it. If you can't get it, you may not be able to get the neem you buy. Apply the extract directly to affected areas. You can buy natural neem extract and apply similarly. So that's where we're going to end. If I had hours, we could go further. We'll answer questions on romance and sex for the rest of the day. Yes?
Speaking of neem, what does it do for your gums?
What neem is, it's a leaf of a tree. It's commonly grown in the Southwest. You'd see an awful lot of it it's from India. You'd see an awful lot of it, for instance, in New Mexico, Arizona, etc. What it does, it's an antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal. That's why I believe it works very well on the scalp and psoriasis, but it also brings blood flow, and besides killing, brings more life back and cell development back to that area.
So it actually can build the
Oh, yeah.
gums up?
Because remember, bacteria is what breaks down the gums. And look at the Harvard study that came out a few years ago that really enlightened all of us. The choroidal artery, which is becoming an increasing problem, we used to all think and teach people that it was all the fat you were eating, animal fat you were eating. We were wrong. Now they found great in part it's a bacteria in the mouth. We did about a 3-year study on our guest at Hippocrates where we swabbed everyone's mouth and looked at it microscopically, thousands of people, for a 3-year period. We didn't find one of us, including myself, my wife, etc., who eat this way for years, decades, that didn't have spiral K. Now, grant you, we had 10% of what everyone else had. We had 10% of the bacteria, but we had it. Now, if we have it, it's bad, horrible bad. But if you have what the average person has, who doesn't eat properly, who eats sugar, who doesn't floss, who doesn't brush their teeth with the proper things, and I'll tell you what that is, you are riddled with this stuff, and the choroidal artery, even if you eat this way, you could end up dying from, because it's a bacteria that clogs this. Now, with that all said, that's another good reason you want to take things like neem. But neem is not in and of itself enough. On the market, a brilliant friend of mine and the largest herbal company in the world, Biobotanical, put a great product out called Perio Paste. It's either you brush your, when I'm traveling, I take a brush with me, but when you're home, far, 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 far better than a brush is a water pick or one of the water devices. They have Perio liquid. You put it in there. This has anti-spiralcate and antibacterial, antimicrobial herbs in it that really kills, because we did the study and we saw it. You brush your teeth. Perio Paste. Perio Paste. Oh, that's the name of it. Biobotanical is the company that made it, but I think it's Perio Paste on the market. You find this at the better stores or online. We have it, but you should be able to find it out west. And basically, you put that in there, you water pick, and never, ever don't floss. Flossing is more important than anything else. This whole concept, we shouldn't brush our teeth and all of this other stuff, we're not living as our ancestors did who chewed on sticks. They didn't need to do what we do. But we do need to do what we do. We don't live on sticks. I mean, I could imagine the average person doing that today. Forget it. Yes?
You mentioned that enzymes and probiotics are starting to be censored, if you will, from various stores.
Right.
Because they're realizing what it can do. Where do you see that going when that's going to happen here? Where can we get it?
Well, I mean, what you have to understand is that the pharmaceutical companies very much understand everything we're talking about here. I learned that in 1976 when I was actually asked to be interviewed for an hour for $200. They invited me from Hippocrates and Alex Jack, who used to publish the East-West Journal from the macrobiota community. We went up to this old, dusty, almost burnt-out type of an office space, and this 400-pound man with his little device to record us was there. And Alex and I looked at one another, and $200 was a lot of money for us at that point each. And basically, we said, we're not going to answer any questions till we know who you are. We literally had to get up and walk halfway down the stairs. And he said, I shouldn't divulge this, but I'm representing General Foods. So, and that was 1976. Maybe 77 that happened. 76 it was. And they believe, they know, the food industry knows, the pharmaceutical industry knows what's happening. They understand that the medicine that they have been dispensing has failed, and the public knows it's failed. The studies now that have been reported in the New England Journal tell us that 52% of the Americans choose not to do mainstream medicine now. I mean, you could tell the average American to stand on their head and whistle, and they'd rather do that than go to a medical doctor today. It's not just you, the enlightened, because they've been burned, and they've seen their mothers and fathers and best friends go down. So the writing's on the wall for them. The only way they can survive, they understand, is take control of the natural and bring it into their realm of influence. And they have the Codex bill, which is an international bill. If you want to read about that, I'm not going to get into that. You can read about it. We've been fighting that for years. But Americans are pretty dull in the mind. They have clickers, potato chips, and Budweiser beer. And one Christmas Eve, when everyone's looking at gifts, they're basically going to pass these bills. Thank God 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they failed with a bill that was going to literally make you have a license to grow a garden in your own yard. But that doesn't mean they're not going to pass that again. So the Nazis are back and alive. That's all I can say to you. So be aware of that. Be responsible, get healthy, don't be negative, be positive, and we'll eventually win the war. Always, 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 we're going to win. Truth always wins and prevails. And it may not be our generation, but it will be the next generation that does. Yes?
How long do you think a fast should be? Is a water juice fast?
Well, number one, a water fast we are totally, absolutely against. We don't think anyone should do a water fast unless you want to be further malnourished. A juice fast, if you do one a week consistently on the same day, it's much better to do 52 days, 1 day a week, than long fast and eat like hell between. And so if you eat the way we're suggesting, 1 day a week, on green juices, wheatgrass, things that are really going to detoxify the body, give proteins, give balance, not make the blood sugar go wacky, not make you get sick and all of those things, that's a good way to do it for most.
Are that fruit juices no good? No fruit juice?
Again, all of us, 60, 70% of us have a blood sugar problem. If you want extra blood sugar problems, drink fruit juice. Yes?
Brian, I saw you a couple years ago speaking at the Raw Spirit Festival, and I guess you look 10 years younger than when I saw you 2 years ago.
His eyes are getting worse, I know. We better have the optometrist look at you.
My question is, I remember you were emphatic about enzymes, and I also remember vitamin D, but I haven't heard you mention vitamin D at all. Have findings changed any, or are you just...
Oh, it's getting worse. I mean, the other day I found out that the latest suggestion is that people need about 2,000 units a day. And what happened is an interesting process. The health industry, the medical industry, everyone together pretty much told you the sun was bad. Now, when I was a little boy, they told the truth. Get out in the sun. It's the best thing, which is true. Even if you study 101 biochemistry, they're going to tell you, or anatomy, the best thing to boost the immune system is the sun. That's why when you sit in the sun, you're doing nothing and you feel remarkable. You haven't even done anything. So with that said, yes, the sun's the best and foremost way to get it. Early morning, 30 minutes before 9, 2 hours before sunset, 30 minutes, or under a tree for 10 minutes in the middle of the day. Always natural fiber clothes. Never wear any of the chemicals unless you want to give yourself cancer. The sun does not give you cancer. What gives you cancer is when the immune system starts to boost out the animal fat and the chemicals you have in your body. You will get wrinkles from the sun. Every wrinkle you and I have, and I have them even though you're way in the back, basically came from the sun. And so you have to avoid it. Most even, quote, health food sunscreens give you cancer. There are a handful that do not. The young man that was very inquisitive yesterday, I kept saying to him, the cheapest, best, and by far most effective is, what is it? Oxide. Zinc oxide. You look like Al Jolson, but who cares? I mean, that's the one that really blocks it. And every one of the good ones have zinc oxide in it, by the way. Yes?
Adrenals?
The adrenals are a problem, but I think a lot of the holistic type doctors that don't know what the hell's wrong with you immediately say you have adrenal burnout. Now, the adrenal, as you know, are glands on top of the kidneys. And it could likely be all the stress that we're under, even the sub-stress that we're not aware of all of the time. There are certain natural herbs, certainly not glands of cows, that's what the typical holistic type would tell you to do, that do help to rebuild them, but reducing stress, contemplation, prayer, meditation, focus is really the best and foremost way to do it. Mineralization with major amounts of magnesium within the diet. These are the things that really help to calm. And you can reverse even cases where you have severe adrenal stress. Yes?
I have a question I think I know the answer to. Is it right, but do you have a thought on Bikram yoga in a hot room?
Well, I can't say enough about Bikram yoga. I mean, I take a sauna every day no matter where I am in the world. I was in a sauna and steam bath today for 25, 30 minutes. I mean, I don't go. Before they get me to go to speak, there's 3 questions I have. Is there a juice bar health store there where I can get organic food and juices? Is there an exercise place there? And can you put me in, doesn't have to be expensive, a quiet room at the top of a place so I'm not listening to cars all night. If the criteria is those 3, I show up. That's it. I don't charge to go and lecture. They just have to fly me there, stick me in it, and that's it, anywhere in the world. So Bikram yoga is right up my alley because it's stretching the body and heating the body at the same time. And every time we heat the body 1/2 a degree, no less 1 degree, which is happening easily, 1 to 1.5 to 2 degrees, depending upon your metabolism with Bikram yoga, you're literally killing microbes and cancer. That's why hyperthermia is widely used in civilized places in the world to kill cancer, where they heat the body up. And the man who was a lead researcher is a good friend of mine here, Dr. Coyne, who's a brilliant medical doctor. He helped to invent MRIs. He literally created single-handedly virtual colonoscopies, so they don't have to stick a schnutz up your backside. And this guy was brilliant. He was a guy, for 5 years, they put in the lead of 6 other doctors and looked at hyperthermia and said, after 5 years, because he's a very honest guy, he said, Brian, he said, they can come to me, spend a lot of money, I can give them anesthetic so they don't go into sunstroke. They have to, and heat your body up once a week, 6 degrees, or tell them to get into a far infrared sauna, 20 minutes, 5-6 days a week, cheaper and better. So you heard what I just said. And that's what you're doing. You're heating the body up. Yes?
Do you like the cell food products?
I take cell food consistently. I never go on a plane without cell food. It's a stabilized oxygen product. You look online, you're actually going to see where they now cracked. It kills malaria as little as 24 hours, but the longest it's ever taken is 72 hours. That's why on planes you should take it.
And there are other products like the DNA, RNA?
I don't know them well enough to articulate anything with. I wouldn't talk about something I don't know. I know the cell food product, the basic stabilized oxygen. Good. I also occasionally take the silica oxygen from them. That I know works. Yes?
We start to take enzymes, hepatic enzymes. How much should we start with and how much should we go right?
We suggest when people come to Hippocrates when they're beginning the raw food diet, 3 to 5 before the meals. Now, 3 to 5 before the meals. That would be a half a tablespoon to 1 tablespoon of the powder. Now, with that said, the people that need 5 have the worst digestion. The people that need 3 have the best digestion. But even if you think you're digesting it without that, you're not. This is going to break it down 30, 40, 50% more. You're going to get 30, 40, 50% more nutrition. You're going to have much less problems. You're going to take 1/5 the time it will take to get the digestive tract used to raw food. I can't say enough good about it. I no longer take it for digestion, although it's ideal to take it 20, 30 minutes ahead of the time. I always forget, as most people do. Even if you take it 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 2 minutes before, it's better than not taking it. You don't want to drink water after you eat, so basically try to do it before. With that said, what you now have to consider is the other ways we use it. Remember, we put enzymes up to schnutza. You can put it up to schnahatza. You can put it up to malugala. All over the body you can put this stuff. And it really can be helpful. So before we leave, I've got to go because we have a tight, nice schedule here. And I want to congratulate the people making the film because they've done a brilliant job here. Let's give them a hand. And those of you out there in cyber world, now let's say a prayer because you all look like you need it. Close your eyes and I'll pray you. Come on, get serious. Take a breath. We're going to do spiritual things now. Big breath. Allow these people to open their mind and to harvest those things of truth that resonate in their life and can improve their existence and those that they love. Allow them to walk as living, talking examples of humanity and bring back the human race. Amen. Thanks for being here. God bless all of you.